I'm the guy whose year is 1999, and the device is the Ericsson T36, paired with something called the HBH15, the first Bluetooth headset the world ever saw. And here's the thing nobody remembers. Before Bluetooth was a feature, it was a bet. A bet that 5 phone and computer companies made together, betting that wires were about to become embarrassing. Picture this. It's the late 90s. Your phone is tethered to your headset with an actual cord. You're driving, you're fumbling, the cord's caught on your gear shift, and somewhere in Sweden, a bunch of Ericsson engineers are looking at this mess and asking a pretty simple question. What if 2 devices could just know about each other? No cord, no ports, no fuss, just proximity and trust. That question turned into a wireless standard named after a 10th century Danish king, Harald Bluetooth Gormson, the guy famous for uniting rival tribes, which honestly is a better metaphor than most tech naming decisions ever get, because that was the actual pitch. Unite a bunch of squabbling manufacturers under one wireless protocol, so your Ericsson phone could talk to your Nokia headset, could talk to your IBM laptop, all without anyone agreeing on cables. Here's what I still can't quite get over, though. This wasn't just make it wireless. Making something wireless is easy. Throw a radio in it. The actual hard problem was making 2 random gadgets from 2 different companies find each other in a crowded room full of other people's gadgets doing the exact same thing and not get confused. So how does a pair of headphones actually pick your phone out of a room full of other phones? That's where this gets weirder than you'd think. So let's start with the problem Bluetooth was actually solving, because it's not the problem people assume. Everybody thinks Bluetooth's big trick was going wireless. It wasn't. Infrared already did wireless, sort of. Remote controls had been wireless for decades. The real problem was discovery. How does one device with no prior introduction find another device in a space full of radio noise and agree to talk to it without a human typing in an IP address or plugging in a cable? That's the question Ericsson's engineers were chasing back in Lund, and it's a much harder problem than it sounds. Here's the elegant part. Bluetooth headphones don't scan the entire radio spectrum hoping to bump into your phone. Instead, both devices hop between 79 different frequencies, up to 1,600 times a second, in a pattern that looks random but isn't. It's mathematically determined. Think of it less like 2 people shouting across a crowded stadium and more like 2 dancers who've secretly memorized the exact same choreography. They're never both standing still waiting to be heard. They're constantly moving together, in sync, landing on the same frequency at the same instant over and over, which is also why Bluetooth barely gets knocked out by Wi-Fi or microwaves. It just hops around the interference. Compare that to what Wi-Fi was doing at the time, parking on one channel and hoping nobody else was using it. Bluetooth basically said, fine, everyone's going to be using it, so let's dance around each other instead of fighting for the same spot. And what it got right, genuinely, is that this whole system was designed to work with almost no user input. You didn't need to understand frequency hopping. You just pressed a button, and 2 strangers' engineering decisions from years earlier quietly did the hard part for you. That's the ahead of its time part people gloss over. Bluetooth was one of the first mainstream wireless standards designed around the assumption that regular people shouldn't have to think about radios at all. Can we talk about pairing mode for a second? That little window where your headphones are frantically blinking and you've got maybe 30 seconds before they give up and go back to sulking in your bag? I've aged years in those 30 seconds. Nobody at Ericsson user-tested that stress. Because once pairing actually works, though, the pitch was genuinely intoxicating for 1999. Answer calls without touching your phone. Walk across the room and stay connected. Leave your phone in your bag and still hear it ring. Sync your headset once and never plug in a cable again. Talk hands-free while you drive, legally, before that was even a law yet. That rhythm, walk away, stay connected, never touch a cable, that was the whole sales pitch of the early 2000s. And it's wild how quickly it went from impressive demo to why would you ever want a wire? But getting two random gadgets to recognize each other reliably every single time in the real world, that part took a lot longer to get right than the marketing led on. Now, here's the thing I didn't mention yet, because it makes the tech sound way more impressive than actually living with it in 2001 felt. That elegant frequency-hopping handshake I just described, in practice, it was finicky as hell. Pairing two devices wasn't a one-tap experience for years. It was often typing a 4-digit PIN code into two separate gadgets, hoping they agreed on it, and watching a little light blink while you silently negotiated with physics. The intended experience was seamless wireless magic. The real-world experience was standing in your kitchen, holding your phone 6 inches from your headset because Bluetooth 1.0's range and reliability were shakier than the spec sheet promised, repairing the same two devices you paired yesterday because sometimes they just forgot each other overnight. And there were real business reasons this rollout was rocky, not just bad luck. Early Bluetooth chips were expensive, so manufacturers cut corners to hit a price point, and cut corners meant weaker antennas and buggier firmware. Different companies interpreted the same open standard slightly differently, so a headset from one brand sometimes just refused to cooperate with a phone from another, which was supposed to be the entire point of a shared standard, the whole unite the rival tribes thing. And competing wireless attempts, along with plain old consumer skepticism about whether wireless earpieces made you look important or made you look like you were talking to yourself on the street corner, didn't help either. Here's the reframe, though. Ericsson wasn't being lazy. They were trying to get 5+ competing companies to agree on shared radio behavior using late 90s chip technology, years before smartphones existed, to normalize any of this. That's an absurdly hard coordination problem, and it's honestly kind of amazing it worked at all on the first real try. The flaw wasn't incompetence, it was ambition outrunning the hardware budget. Though I will say, if I have to watch one more pair of wireless earbuds do that slow, deliberate, beep, connected chime like it's proud of itself for a task it does 11 times a day, I might go back to the cord. By the mid-2000s, Bluetooth headsets had become a punchline as much as a product. That single glowing blue ear light became shorthand for person having a conversation with someone who isn't there. The tech worked. The culture hadn't caught up to what it looked like to use it in public yet. So where does this land in the grand scale of forgotten but important tech? Honestly, pretty high. Not because the early Bluetooth headset itself was some beloved gadget. Most people don't get nostalgic for the HBH15 the way they do for an iPod. It's because the invisible problem it solved, that how do two strangers' devices find each other in a crowded room question, quietly became the plumbing under almost everything wireless you own today. Remember that dance metaphor from Part 2? Two devices hopping frequencies in perfect sync, never quite touching but always finding each other? That's still happening right now, probably in your pocket, between your phone and whatever's in your ears. The choreography got faster and way more reliable, but the core idea Ericsson's engineers in Lund never went away. And the legacy is everywhere once you start looking. Your AirPods popping open with that little connected animation? Same discovery problem, just wrapped in better software. Your smartwatch quietly syncing steps to your phone. Your car recognizing your phone the second you sit down. Even the entire smart home, all those bulbs and locks and speakers finding each other without you plugging in a single cable. That's the great-grandchild of a bunch of Swedish engineers trying to fix a tangled headset cord in a car. So next time your earbuds connect instantly without a PIN code, without holding your phone 6 inches away, without that agonizing 30-second pairing window, spare a thought for the HBH15. It did the hard, embarrassing first draft version of a problem so good that we forgot it was ever a problem at all. I want to know if you had one of these. Or honestly, if you had one of the early Bluetooth headsets that made you look like you were talking to yourself on the street. Tell me in the comments. And if there's some other forgotten piece of tech you want me digging into next, drop it below. I'm always looking for the next weird one.